On the day the eldest princess who had humiliated my husband married, my elegant and distinguished chancellor husband took his own life in the study. Gritting my teeth against grief, I sorted through his belongings only to discover countless portraits of the eldest princess hidden in a secret compartment. Beneath each portrait, in small characters, were the words, "My beloved Wan Wan." So he had loved her this deeply all along. When I opened my eyes again, I had reincarnated to the day the princess forced him into her residence. This time, I did not spend 10,000 taels of gold to save him. Instead, I offered a cool congratulations. This man possesses striking, refined features. Congratulations, princess, on acquiring a new plaything. Recently, this palace has acquired a batch of new playthings. Everyone, take a look at their beauty. Princess Li Wan, her face radiant and exquisite, sat at the head of the table, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. With that, she clapped her hands. Servants from the princess's residence dragged a cage draped in red cloth to the center of the banquet hall. Eyes filled with curiosity or anticipation turned toward the gilded, ornate cage at the stage's heart. My expression remained impassive as I watched coldly. My thoughts raced. Through the red cloth, I seemed to glimpse the elegant and noble figure of Prime Minister Pei Shuyan from my past life. Princess Li Wan lived in extravagant luxury, surrounded by numerous male favorites. She particularly delighted in hunting down handsome young men from the common folk, keeping them like pets in captivity. Virtually every man she took a fancy to was brought back to the princess's residence and tortured to death. As an imperial merchant, I had also been invited to her spring banquet at the same time in my previous life. At that banquet, my gaze immediately settled on Pei Shuyan, slender and gaunt, yet standing tall and straight like a cold pine. I admired the calmness in his eyes amidst adversity, the spine that remained straight even when mired in a swamp. I knew this man was no ordinary fish in a pond, he was destined for greatness. Though my family had been merchants for generations, my father taught me one thing from childhood. When judging horses, one should not overlook the lean ones. When judging men, one should not overlook the poor ones. Thus, I offered 10,000 taels of gold to persuade the princess to part with him. Though Li Wan was not entirely pleased, she relinquished Pei Shuyan to me, honoring my generous offer. I pulled him out of the mire, and Pei Shuyan did not disappoint. At a young age, he passed the imperial examinations 3 times, becoming the youngest top scholar in nearly a century. Our family business flourished further thanks to Pei Shuyan's connections in official circles. When we became betrothed, he hesitated slightly, but his mother took a great liking to me. So he agreed. At the time, I simply thought he wasn't ready for marriage. Years of living side by side, coupled with the debt of gratitude I held toward him. Though he was usually taciturn, I was utterly confident he was deeply in love with me. The only time he ever touched me was on our wedding night. Pei Shuyan had drunk heavily, stumbling as he embraced me, his warm breath tickling my ear. That night, he was unusually passionate and intense, whispering my name softly over and over, Wan Wan. My face flushed as I responded softly, my heart overflowing with sweetness. It wasn't until the day of the princess's wedding that he took his own life in despair. As I sorted through his belongings, only then did I discover the hidden compartment in his study, filled with portraits of Li Wan. And the truth dawned on me. The Wan he called out wasn't mine, Lin Wan's Wan, but Li Wan's Wan. No wonder on our wedding night, he, who never touched a drop, drank as if trying to drown himself. He must have believed that drunkenness would let him mistake me for Li Wan. A wave of humiliation and betrayal washed over me. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day of the princess's spring banquet. A eunuch lifted the corner of the red curtain covering the cage with a golden rod. Everyone held their breath, their eyes instinctively following his movements. The beautiful scene within the cage slowly unfolded, and the crowd gasped. 5 young men clad in light robes gradually revealed themselves. My gaze instinctively fell upon Pei Shuyan. Pei Shuyan sat expressionless against the cage wall, his hanging hands trembling slightly. His hair softly framed his eyes, and the contours of his jaw were gentle. Truly, he was like orchids and jade trees, as pure and cool as the bright moon. Hearing the gasps of the crowd, he slowly lifted his amber eyes, his handsome brows slightly furrowed. Before his eyes could adjust to the daylight, he scanned the surroundings, searching for something. I furrowed my delicate brows. Why was this lifetime's Pei Shuyan so much less composed than the one before? Pei Shuyan, as if sensing something, slowly turned his head toward me. Before our gazes met, I coldly averted my eyes. What do you all think of this batch? The eldest princess arched her phoenix-like eyebrows, lazily inquiring from her reclining position on the upper couch. The eldest daughter of Minister Zhang eagerly chimed in, absolutely stunning. Your Highness, hundreds of times more exquisite than the ones in your current harem. The crowd began chattering excitedly. Li Wan's eyes flickered as she glanced at me, silently sipping my fruit wine. What do you think, Miss Lin? I lifted my wine cup and looked up. But before I could speak, I felt a searing gaze in my peripheral vision. Pei Shuyan gripped the cage bars, staring at me without blinking. His actions naturally drew the attention of others. Li Wan's expression turned displeased as she coldly asked, "You know him?" My face remained calm, but inside, I was startled. 1,000 thoughts racing through my mind. Pei Shuyan's behavior in this lifetime was utterly uncharacteristic. Could he have reincarnated too? After a long silence, I replied, "No, I don't." Li Wan's lips curved into a magnanimous smile, yet her eyes held a stealthy test. This creature seems quite fond of Miss Lin. If you fancy it too, I'd be happy to gift it to you. I replied calmly, this man possesses striking, refined features. How could a commoner like me presume to take what belongs to the princess? I offer my congratulations on finding a new plaything. Li Wan's phoenix-like eyes narrowed slightly, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. Inside the cage, Pei Shuyan's hands suddenly clenched the bars with such force upon hearing my words. The force startled the eunuch standing beside him. His thin robes swayed with his movement, revealing faint, light-colored whip marks and burn scars across his body. The contrast of pale skin and crimson scars held a strange, eerie beauty. In my past life, fearing these scars would haunt him, I sought out renowned doctors to heal every mark on his body. But now I realize I meddled unnecessarily. Perhaps he cherishes these scars of love. I glanced at Pei Shuyan again. He still stood rigidly, his frail body fixed on me. My confusion deepened. He resembled a pet abandoned by its master, utterly bewildered. Suppressing my doubts, I turned my gaze to the youth behind him, his eyes sharp as a wolf's. The future general of the northern frontier, Fu Zian. In my previous life, I'd heard he was untamable. Once, he nearly killed Li Wan, yet she adored his wild nature, showering him with affection. Later, when Li Wan took him on a journey, he seized the chance to fall off a cliff. She turned the imperial city upside down searching for him, but found no trace. He reappeared 5 years later, having earned glorious military achievements in the northern frontier, where the old emperor had bestowed upon him the title of General of the Northern Frontier. The old emperor, consumed by his obsession with alchemy, was now frail and unwell, his lucidity fading in and out. The third prince, who had long feigned illness and weakness, finally revealed his true capabilities at this critical juncture. Fu Zian was the sharpest sword in the third prince's arsenal. The crown prince and the eldest princess shared the same mother. I had urged Pei Shuyan many times to remain neutral, but he disregarded my objections and sided with the crown prince's faction. Only after his death did I understand why he had so resolutely aligned himself with the Crown Prince's faction, likely because of Li Wan. Fu Xian and Pei Shuyan were like water and fire in the court. The eldest princess's marriage alliance seemed to have been orchestrated by the third prince's faction. As these thoughts surfaced, a wicked amusement welled up inside me. I turned to Li Wan, pointed at Fu Xian, and spoke crisply, "Princess, would you trade 10,000 taels of gold for this youth?" Pei Shuyan fixed his gaze on me. The icy corners of his eyes now held shards of crimson. Veins bulged on his knuckled hands, as if he wanted to snap the staff in two. The young wolf cub, however, stared at me wide-eyed, his usually dashing face frozen in utter bewilderment. Just as in my previous life, though Li Wan was reluctant, she relinquished Fu Xian to me for the sake of the gold. The latter half of the banquet held little interest for me, and I didn't spare Pei Shuyan in the cage another glance. After the banquet concluded, my two attendants, Zhao Kai and Jin Bao, carried the tightly bound Fu Xian onto the carriage of my Lin residence. Seated upright in the carriage, I studied Fu Xian before me. The princess's servants, fearing he might escape, had preemptively administered a muting potion and a bone-softening powder. Yet even now, though visibly weakened, his eyes still burned with savage hostility. Thinking he must have gone without food for some time, I took a peach blossom pastry from the food box and tentatively offered it to his lips. After holding it there for a while, Fu Xian showed no reaction. His gaze fixed on me. Just as I lost interest and was about to lower my hand, he suddenly lunged and bit down on my finger. The shock made my heart skip a beat. I instinctively pulled my hand back, muttering under my breath, "A wolf cub." Indeed. I promptly tossed the pastry back into the box, closed my eyes to rest, and ignored him. Upon returning to the manor, I had Fu Xian's restraints loosened and confined him to the courtyard next to mine. I went to my study to attend to some affairs. By evening, judging that the effects of his medication would soon wear off, I sent someone to prepare some plain congee and light dishes for him. After delivering the food, Zhao Kai came to my study with a troubled expression. "Master." I simply couldn't control him. I had to ask the estate guards to tie him to the bedhead to feed him. But as soon as the food went in, he threw it all back up. I stroked the ledger in my hand thoughtfully. Just then, Jin Bao, who had gone to investigate Fu Xian's background, returned. "My lady, I've uncovered everything. Please review it." It turned out Fu Xian was an orphan. His father had been forcibly conscripted by the imperial court and later perished on the battlefield. His mother remarried, leaving him utterly alone from childhood. Only through the kindness of neighbors who shared their meager meals did he survive and grow up. Li Wan, accompanied by guards, had gone out to the outskirts for a stroll. She happened upon Fu Xian hunting and immediately ordered him brought to the princess's residence. Fu Xian fled deep into the mountains. Enraged, the princess threatened the lives of the entire village's elderly and weak to coerce him. Two fists cannot withstand imperial might. To save his village, Fu Xian followed Li Wan back to the princess's residence. This is undoubtedly good news. A person with vulnerabilities is far easier to manipulate. Let's go see him. I rose and led Zhao Kai and Jin Bao to the neighboring courtyard. The moment I stepped inside, I saw Fu Xian bound to a gold-threaded rosewood bed. His clothes were disheveled, and a few strands of hair stood on end from his struggle, oddly softening his normally wild, rogue-like features. Fu Xian's eyes flashed with hostility and wariness as I entered. I met the young wolf cub's gaze with calm composure. Zhao Kai brought over a stool. I sat down leisurely, then waved for the two of them to wait outside. "So," I said, "what's the purpose of buying me?" Fu Xian's voice was cold and hoarse, like he was swallowing gravel. I snorted derisively, poured myself a cup of tea, and replied casually, "Don't worry. I have no interest in your body. Years ago, during business chats, I'd heard rumors about a village bully in Linshui village, a fierce and unpredictable man who never oppressed the villagers. On the contrary, whenever bandits or robbers came to Linshui to pillage and plunder, this bully would step forward to fight them off, never once defeated. Recalling the intelligence Jin Bao had gathered, I spoke while observing Fu Xian's reaction. Sure enough, his expression gradually relaxed. I continued, though you've lived long in the wilderness, your heart is kind and you value loyalty and righteousness. I simply cannot bear to see someone of such character suffer in the princess's residence. Besides, I'm a merchant, Mr. Fu. I don't make deals that lose me money. At the last sentence, Fu Xian snorted coldly with disdain. Spit it out already. What's your purpose? Don't beat around the bush. You possess both noble character and exceptional martial prowess. My family's vast holdings attract countless thieves in these turbulent times. If you wish to remain with the Lin household, you must safeguard its assets. You may present yourself as a Lin household guard, enjoying complete freedom and human rights. Should you harbor ambitions, unwilling to endure this life of dependence, and aspire to rise in the future, I will arrange for tutors to instruct you in both scholarship and martial arts. I will ensure the villagers are well cared for, guaranteeing their peace and security, free from the threat of the princess. I chuckled lightly before adding, of course, if you refuse my terms, I shall consider the 10,000 taels of gold a price paid for making a friend. You may leave now, and I will provide you with travel expenses. I only hope that when you rise to prominence in the future, you will remember to look after the Lin family. Fu Xian studied me intently, seemingly gauging the sincerity of my words. But let me warn you, if you leave the Lin household, I guarantee the princess will recapture you within 3 days. Until your wings are fully grown, only I can protect you. Mr. Fu. Fu Xian stared straight at me. His long lashes framed a face that, even now, bore no trace of defeat or gloom. His features remained as exquisitely sculpted as ever. No wonder Li Wan cherished him for so many years. Think it over carefully. Give me your answer tomorrow. With that, I rose and left the room. Zhao Kai and Jin Bao entered to untie Fu Xian. His wrists were red from the ropes, yet he remained lost in thought, seemingly oblivious to the pain. By noon the next day, Zhao Kai reported that Fu Xian wished to see me. I had him brought to my study. Fu Xian entered the study and stood silently for a moment. I made no haste. I agree, he murmured hoarsely. Please see to the villagers' needs. I curved my lips, naturally. Rest well these few days. The tutors assigned to teach you will arrive shortly. The tutors assigned to teach Fu Xian were the same ones I had arranged for Pei Shuyan in my previous life. The tutors came to the residence during the day to instruct him. With nothing else to occupy me, I strolled over to the study hall. Peering through the back window, I saw Fu Xian seated cross-legged on a cushion, clad in white. His back turned to me. I froze for a few seconds before Zhao Kai's reminder snapped me back to reality. Even though the silhouette resembled him, the person before me was not Pei Shuyan, and I was not the Lin one of my previous life. Perhaps driven by an intense desire to alter his fate, Fu Xian studied with relentless diligence every day. His constitution was already frail, and now he was taxing his mind daily. I instructed the kitchen to prepare varied nourishing dishes for him each day. Before I knew it, nearly a month had passed. From his initial wariness and distrust, he now sat calmly with me to converse. Fearing he might study himself into exhaustion, I summoned him to the study. The weather is lovely today. Care to take a stroll? Spring was in full swing, with greenery cloaking every plant. The carriage adorned with fragrant leaves and jeweled curtains rolled along Chang'an's bustling streets. Today's opera performance at the theater was loyalty to the nation. I recalled how Fu Xian had become a general in my previous life. so this place seemed perfectly suited to his interests. Stepping down from the carriage, a scene of small bridges and flowing water greeted my eyes. The theater stood beside a lotus pond. From the carved pavilion above, the resonant sound of chain strings mingled with soft, melancholic singing. Below the pavilion, noble sons and daughters drifted in small painted boats, admiring the lotuses in the lake. Such an elegant place. Naturally, was also an estate under my name. I led Fuzian to the top floor, the spot with the finest view. As luck would have it, the moment we ascended, we bumped into Li Wan in a private box. Li Wan reclined on a white fur-lined beauty couch, her posture both regal and languid. Several slender, lightly clad young men poured wine at her side, while Pei Xiuyan, clad in a light, ethereal white robe, sat before a guzheng. My footsteps halted. Fu Zian looked at me, puzzled, then followed my gaze to the scene within the private box. The light in his eyes turned as cold and frosty as ice. How fortunate that Miss Lin finds time for opera today. And even more rare that she brings such a beauty along? Li Wan brushed aside the eager young man before her, adjusting her sheer gown that had slipped down her arm. Her tone was playful as she looked at Fu Zian and me. My expression remained calm, avoiding Pei Xiuyan's subtle gaze. I offered a light smile, feared he'd grow too bored staying at the mansion. So we came out for a stroll. Li Wan smiled faintly, glancing at the young wolf cub beside me, though the warmth in her eyes didn't reach her gaze. No one noticed the slight tremor in Pei Xiuyan's fingers as he played the zither upon hearing my words. Pour Miss Lin some wine. Seated beside Li Wan, I watched as her delicate hand gently pointed toward Pei Xiuyan beside us. Pei Xiuyan lowered his gaze, rose, and approached. The fresh scars on his pale chest flickered in and out of view with each step. I glanced at them briefly before averting my eyes. Even if he was covered in wounds, what did it matter to me? His long-fingered hand lifted the white jade wine flask. My eyes fixed on the flask. Pei Xiuyan's hand trembled slightly, losing its grip. The lid rolled down the curve of the jade table and clattered onto my lap. I said nothing, calmly pulling out a handkerchief to dab at the damp fabric. Li Wan's delicate features bore no change in her smile, yet her eyes darkened with a hint of shadow. Xiuyan, your thoughts seem rather scattered these past 2 days. Kneel properly. Pei Xiuyan knelt on the floor. Li Wan's delicate, jade-like hand gently cupped his chin, while her other held the white jade wine flask. She tilted the spout downward and forced the contents down his throat. Pei Xiuyan choked, his eyes reddening. He endured the pain while coughing, the wine flowing down the corners of his mouth, soaking through his already thin robes. Fu Zian's fist beneath the table bulged with veins as he gritted his teeth, watching the scene unfold. I pressed down on his clenched fist under the table, my expression unreadable. No one cared more for Pei Xiuyan than I did, at least. That was true in my past life. Looking back now, what I thought was kindness was likely just meddling. Perhaps this was simply Li Weiniang and his brand of affection. After finishing a pot of wine, Pei Xiuyan panted heavily, sensing my gaze. He looked over. Our eyes met. His gaze drifted downward, and when he saw my hand touching Fu Zian's beneath the table, his expression shifted slightly. It seemed, compared to the suffering before him, he cared more about Fu Zian beside me. After the torment, Li Wan was in high spirits and ordered Pei Xiuyan to play the zither again. Pei Xiuyan sat expressionless before the ancient zither. His fingers began to move, yet paused inexplicably before launching into Autumn Night Thoughts, the piece I had cherished most in my past life. My breath caught. The scene before me overlapped with memories, as if I were reliving that past existence. This very piece, Autumn Night Thoughts, was one I had taught him. Now, hearing it again, my heart held none of those tender longings. Only a sickening nausea rose within me. And my past suspicions were confirmed, he too had been reborn. Had he deliberately played this piece to test whether my actions differed from my previous life? To see if I too had been reborn? Don't blame me for being overly suspicious. He who sacrificed himself for the princess in our past life has changed so drastically in this one, it's downright abnormal. Malicious thoughts take root in my mind. Could it be that our virtuous and upright Chancellor Pei, after enduring days of a life worse than that of a pig or a dog in the princess's mansion, suddenly missed the kindness I showed him in our previous existence? The thought brings a measure of relief to my heart. Mud remains mud. Even if I propel him to high office, he cannot shed his filthy, rotten core. Li Wan gazed at Pei Shuyan's profile, narrowing her phoenix eyes with affection as she leaned back lightly. Of all the men in the inner courtyard, he is my favorite now. Though somewhat dull, this face truly stands as the peerless beauty of our dynasty. I replied indifferently, I hear the Empress recently arranged a match for you with a noble young master. He's merely a trifling plaything unfit for the stage. Your Highness, do not set your heart upon him. Pei Shuyan struck a wrong note. Li Wan forced a laugh from her chest, her posture haughty and reckless. So what if I have a prince consort? Don't forget, this is the Li family's realm. Your Highness speaks with perfect reason. Besides, Xiao Yan possesses remarkable talent. The crown prince holds him in high regard. Though his origins are humble, he would serve well by my side. My eyes flickered. A servant brought a fresh wine flask and filled my cup. I lifted the cup, inhaling the rich aroma of the fine wine, my eyes narrowing slightly. Li Wan turned to me, her eyes sparkling with amusement. I offered a faint smile, then covered my mouth with my sleeve as I drained the cup. Moments later, I pressed my hand to my forehead, feigning dizziness. Li Wan's smile broadened at the sight. My face flushed with embarrassment as I addressed her, Princess. I cannot hold my liquor well. I fear I might make a spectacle of myself. I must take my leave. Li Wan glanced toward the inner chamber of the private room, her tone leaving no room for refusal. There's a place to rest right here. Miss Lin, please take a moment to rest. Two young men immediately approached to support me. Anger began to rise within me, though my face still bore a look of embarrassment. Li Wan instructed the two youths to take good care of me. I abruptly shook off their hands, grabbed Fu Xian's arm, and said, Ian taking care of me is enough. We've troubled you enough. Before Fu Xian could react, I yanked him into the inner room. The door slammed shut with a thunderous clang as I pinned him to the bed. Fu Xian stared at me as I lay atop him, his mind momentarily blank. All he could perceive was the elegant fragrance wafting from my breath. Fu Xian shivered slightly, as if a snowflake had suddenly fallen on his neck in winter. My hair was slightly disheveled. My face flushed like dawn clouds, a stark contrast to the usual Lin Wan, always holding ledgers with a cool, calculating demeanor. He frantically pushed my shoulders, only to be pinned down again, held firmly to the bed. His face, usually brimming with reckless indifference, now bore an incongruous innocence. His dark eyes widened as he exclaimed, What are you doing, Lin Wan? My own gaze, previously hazy and clouded, had regained its clarity. Perched atop him, I whispered into his ear, Don't move. The wine was laced. My warm lips accidentally brushed against Fu Xian's ear. His body stiffened, his breathing lost its rhythm, and his hands didn't know where to go. Unaware of his reaction, I continued. I poured all the wine into my sleeve. I saw this trick when I was a kid, daring to play dirty tricks on my turf. The young wolf wasn't entirely heartless. His handsome brows furrowed at my words. Why would she drug you? I gave a cold laugh. She's always been arrogant and unreasonable. Probably because I stole you away from her. Or because of Pei Shuyan. Reaching toward the hidden compartment under the bed, I asked, Can you call out? Call out? Yes. Have you witnessed the affairs of men and women? You don't need me to teach you. Let me hear you make a sound first. Seeing Fu Zian staring blankly at me, I urged him again. He snapped out of it and gave a half-hearted awe. I narrowed my eyes, speechless. Was that just now the sound of a wild donkey? My hand finally found the protrusion. With a click, a secret passage opened beneath the bed. I bent down to enter, glancing back at Fu Zian, who still refused to show his face. Keep calling out, I instructed. Call out properly. Don't let anyone outside grow suspicious. I'll send someone else over. With that, I quietly slipped into the passageway. Fu Zian watched me disappear into the tunnel. After a long while, his face flushed crimson as he finally glanced toward the doorway, muttering curses under his breath. After Fu Zian had recuperated for a while, I arranged martial arts training for him. Barely 2 days into the lessons, Fu Zian suddenly collapsed on the training grounds. Hearing the news, I rushed back to the estate from my business trip. Zhao Kai had already summoned Master Physician due to treat Fu Zian. The cause of his collapse? He'd been training recklessly these past days, refusing to rest even with a fever. Seeing Fu Zian lying unconscious on the bed, pale as paper, I felt utterly helpless. Nothing serious. 2 days of medicine should bring down the fever. Master Physician Du reassured me. I nodded my thanks to Dr. Du, sent Zhao Kai to prepare the medicine, and stayed by the bedside, wiping the cold sweat from Fu Zian's brow. As I wiped, I murmured to myself, you absolutely must not come to harm. The future of the third prince, Pei Xiuyan, and the Lin family's rise to power and renewed glory all depend on you. Fu Zian's brow furrowed slightly. My movements froze. Seeing no sign of him waking, I resigned myself to staying by his bedside. After keeping vigil all night, Zhao Kai informed me the manager of Suiyu Pavilion had come calling. Doubt stirred within me. Suiyu Pavilion belonged to the Empress's maternal family. We had no usual business dealings. What could this mean? I had the manager of Suiyu Shan invited to rest in the main hall briefly while I changed clothes. When I arrived in the hall and saw the visitor, my expression froze. It was none other than Pei Xiuyan. Wan. Pei Xiuyan murmured tenderly. My brow grew cold. Mr. Pei has overstepped. I am Lin Wan. Everyone else withdrew from the hall, leaving only Pei Xiuyan and me. You've returned too. Pei Xiuyan fixed his gaze on me, his voice soft. His tone was certain. My actions in this lifetime must have aroused his suspicion. Pretending ignorance was pointless. I replied bluntly. Yes. So what? Business matters first. Since you came today as the manager of Suiyu Pavilion, what exactly is your purpose? If you wish to catch up, I imagine you and the princess have more to discuss. Pei Xiuyan's face drained of color at my words. I had never witnessed such a moment of utter disarray from our dynasty's most noble and upright Chancellor Pei. I let out a cold laugh, relishing the sight of his pained expression now that his secret was out. You saw it, Pei Xiuyan said, his voice thick with bitterness. 110 portraits. Your devotion is sickening. As if scorched by the loathing in my eyes, Pei Xiuyan stumbled backward, unable to steady himself. I continued, my voice thick with loathing. I don't know what you're trying to achieve with this disgusting act in this lifetime. Li Wan isn't someone who tolerates you harboring feelings for another. Wan. His eyes flushed crimson, his voice breaking as he called my name, filled with shame. Don't call me Wan. The word made the veins on my forehead throb violently, and I could no longer maintain my composure. The world may call me Lin Wan, a profit-driven merchant. But Pei Xiuyan, you know full well how I treated you. Is this the gratitude for my sincerity, years of deception? Pei Xiuyan's voice was laced with bitterness. The sharp wit that had once outmaneuvered scholars in court now faltered, leaving only repeated apologies. I impatiently cut off his belated remorse. The Lin family has no business dealings with your Shuiyu pavilion. Young Master Pei. You may take your leave. Pei Xiuyan stared blankly at the hatred in my eyes. His once clear features now as lifeless as dried wood. Returning to my study, I heard Jin Bao announce that Fu Ziyan had awakened. I pushed open the door to Fu Ziyan's room but found him absent. I called his name softly twice, but no one answered. Instead, the sound of water reached me from the inner chamber. Pulling back the curtain, I stepped inside to find a youth shrouded in mist. His form barely discernible. I hurried back out to the outer room, uttering an awkward apology. Fu Ziyan inside seemed equally startled, remaining silent for a long moment. Come to the study after you finish bathing. With that, I quickly stepped out of the courtyard. Though our region was known for its open-minded customs, with no strict gender segregation, I remained rather conservative at heart. Bright lamps flickered through the lattice windows. When Fu Ziyan came to find me, I tried my best to act nonchalant. He, too, pressed his lips together in a serious expression. His ears flushed pink. You sought me out? Fu Ziyan stole a glance at me, his question tinged with unease. I cleared my throat and adopted a serious tone. Achievement isn't overnight. A strong body is essential for faster growth. I hope you understand this principle. Fu Ziyan's gaze flickered as he looked at me, finally managing a muffled MHM from deep within his chest. If you're interested in that sort of thing, once you've recovered properly, I'll take you to the barracks for some fun. The young wolf cub's eyes instantly lit up. Fu Ziyan left the estate at noon and hadn't returned by evening. My eyelid twitched uncontrollably. My gut told me something was wrong. I sent Zhao Kai to investigate. The servant who returned reported that Fu Ziyan was at the gambling house with a woman. Gambling dens, unknown to most. But with my memories from another lifetime, I knew this was Wang Yusheng's money-making operation. And Wang Yusheng? In my past life. Before Li Wan captured Pei Xiuyan and brought him back to the estate, he had been Pei Xiuyan's classmate. Without time to ponder, I took Zhao Kai and Jin Bao, along with a contingent of guards, and rode in a carriage to the gambling den. On the way, Zhao Kai recounted the events to me. Fu Ziyan had a childhood sweetheart named Liani. Liani's brother was a hopeless gambler who, unable to repay his debts, had his leg cut off today by the gambling house. To save his own life, the gambler brother offered to sell his sister to settle the debt. Wang Yusheng offered Liani a chance to raise the money in one go. With no other options, Liani turned to Fu Ziyan for help. But Fu Ziyan had no money. The result? They all got detained at the gambling house. Wang Yusheng then ordered his thugs to cripple Fu Ziyan too. As soon as we reached the gambling house entrance, we heard screams and the sounds of fighting inside. I raised my delicate eyebrow, waved my hand, and a large group marched into the gambling den. Inside, chaos reigned. Dozens of thugs lay sprawled on the floor. Fu Ziyan, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, his eyes cold and sharp, radiated pure killing intent. A blood-stained stool was held up in front of Liani, her tear-streaked face only heightening her delicate beauty. Her gambling-addicted brother, now missing an arm and a leg, lay on the floor wailing pitifully. Wang Yusheng sat cross-legged in a grand armchair, flanked by about 30 thugs standing behind him. The people inside heard the commotion at the door and turned their gaze toward me. Wang Yusheng spat, sizing me up with a dismissive glance. Mr. Lin. He chuckled lightly. What brings you to my humble workshop today? I offered a faint smile, my tone measured and unhurried. My men were inconsiderate and disrupted Mr. Wang's business. I've come to escort him home. Wang Yusheng snorted coldly, his finger pointing at Fu Ziyan. Your men? You mean this hot-headed fool who always has to stick his neck out? Fu Ziyan didn't blink, his gaze fixed intently on me. Precisely. Wang Yusheng stared at me icily. And what if I refuse to let you take him? Zhao Kai brought over a stool. I draped my cloak over it and sat down. My expression serene. Go ahead and try. If you don't release him now, evidence of your tax evasion will be on the magistrate's desk first thing tomorrow morning. I may not be much, but I do have some well-connected officials. They could make sure you rot in prison for the rest of your life. Wang Yusheng was known as Wang Guzi, Wang the dog, among the capital's merchants because his business dealings were so ruthless, always making money through underhanded means. Wang Yusheng's eyes bulged with rage as he glared at me. After a long, frustrated sigh, he shot Fu Ziyan a vicious look. Kid, you got lucky today. Get out of here. Fu Ziyan hesitated, glancing at Liani, who clung timidly to his sleeve. I spoke coolly. That girl, I'm taking her with me too. Lin Wan. Don't push it too far. Her brother still owes me money. If she leaves, who will I collect from? I tossed a money pouch onto the floor casually and said coldly, tell Pei Shuyan, I'll reclaim everything from today. Piece by piece. Rising to leave, Lin Manor's guards escorted Fu Ziyan and Liani out the gate. Back at the manor, Fu Ziyan stood silently in place. His peripheral vision briefly caught mine before he spoke. Choosing his words carefully, thank you for today. Suppressing the fire within, my gaze as icy as frost. I looked at Fu Ziyan and said coolly, today's events? I intend to settle accounts with you. Your first offense, reckless conduct. You bear the Lin family's name wherever you go. Yet you panic at the slightest trouble, acting rashly and belligerently, regardless of Wang Yusheng's motives. Had I not intervened today, his influence in Chang'an could have destroyed you 10 times over. Your second offense, dereliction of duty. As a guard of the Lin household, forget the 10,000 taels of gold, just consider the monthly salary I pay you and the resources invested in your training. You know exactly how much you're worth. Today was your watch. Yet you left the estate without a word. Did I hire you to eat for free? Your third offense, insubordination. Don't mistake my kindness these past days for equality. Our positions are distinct. I am master. You are servant. I hold absolute authority over you. For your reckless bravado and the trouble you've caused today, I could have beaten you half to death. Who would dare question my actions? Utterly foolish. Fu Ziyan listened with head bowed, his fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. In the end, he uttered not a single word of protest. Go to Zhao Kai yourself to receive your punishment. Only after Fu Ziyan left did I exhale a breath of pent-up frustration. To say today's incident had nothing to do with Pei Shuyan? I wouldn't believe it for a second. After all, nothing like this ever happened in my previous life. I just didn't know his purpose, whether he was eliminating rivals in advance for himself, or because I had bought Fu Ziyan. But none of that mattered. Anyone who touched my people would pay the price. Especially after deceiving me for so many years in my past life. He showed no mercy, I'd show none in return. I drew a diagram of the Crown Prince's faction network from my past life, along with Pei Shuyan's hidden connections, and had the secret guard slip it into the third prince's carriage. Since Fu Ziyan cared so much about Liani, I had Zhao Kai ask her if she'd be willing to abandon such a beastly brother. After receiving her affirmative answer, I dispatched men to throw Liani's brother out of Chang'an City to fend for himself. That afternoon, I lay leisurely on the swing, reading Chang'an's latest viral wild book, 108 Pregnancies, the poison doctor mother runs away with the baby. Gritting my teeth, I reached the pivotal scene where the male lead, consumed by jealousy and misunderstanding, forcefully kissed the female lead. As I read, the sunlight suddenly dimmed before my eyes. Looking up, I saw Fu Ziyan standing before me, tray in hand, his gaze shifting uneasily. I suppressed my less than dignified expression and asked, "What is it?" Jinbao mentioned you love peach blossom pastries. I made some today. Jinbao said they taste good. Would you like to try one? The young wolf cub's handsome, roguish face held an unnoticed flattery. Holding the tray with both hands, he offered it to me, his lips pressed tightly together in nervousness. I picked up a peach blossom pastry and glanced at Fuzian. He was watching me, his eyes brimming with expectation. I chuckled inwardly. This guy couldn't even hide his expressions. Fine. I'd give him a way out. I took a small bite and remarked casually, "Not bad." Fuzian's lips curved into a subtle smile, softening his usually stern features. I want to apologize. Yesterday, I acted impulsively and without consideration. It won't happen again. Also, thank you for helping Lieni. I waved it off. I know you were anxious about your beloved, but I helped her because she's capable. It was a win-win, no need to thank me. What beloved? Fuzian froze, his smile stiffening. I took another bite of the peach pastry, mumbling, "Isn't Lieni your beloved?" "No way. Don't say that." Fuzian stiffened his neck, straightening his posture as he protested urgently. I dismissed it as mere boyish shyness, glancing at the wild book in my hands and dismissively waved it off. Fine. Fine. Not her. I really don't like Lieni. I only see her as a younger sister. I muttered yeah, while reading the book. Classic Lin Wan style evasion. Fuzian's expression shifted several times as he stared at me for a long while, lost in the world of the prince and the poison doctor. I paid him no mind. After a long silence, I heard him sigh softly. He picked up the palm fan from the table and began gently fanning me. Lieni opened a wonton shop in the northern part of the city. When I happened upon it while leaving town, she brought me a bowl of wontons. Seeing her fair complexion and brightened features, I knew she must be living comfortably and contentedly these days. Rubbing her hands together, she said somewhat bashfully, "Miss Lin, I never had the chance to thank you properly. After that incident, I feared you might blame Yengu. Yet not only did you show no anger, you even helped me open this shop. Your kindness is something Lieni will never forget. Yengu is a good man. When he was young, my grandmother often brought him meals, so he's always been grateful to my family. He treats me." Lieni paused, her eyes dimming. I remained silent, listening to her continue. "He's like family. Miss Lin. I can feel how much Yen cares about you. Miss Lin. I'm only saying this because I hope my actions haven't caused a rift between you two." Lieni smiled. My thoughts churned as I replied, "Okay." Suddenly, I recalled the last lantern festival in Chang'an City. I'd won a little pig lantern and, eyes sparkling, told him it suited him perfectly. He lifted his head. Behind him, countless lanterns shimmered like layers of stars. Blinking his clear, bright eyes, he gazed at me, utterly captivated. Back then, he possessed a peculiar innocence and childlike charm. In the days that followed, he deliberately avoided my gaze. Yet when I wasn't looking, he'd unconsciously follow my every move. So that's how it was. Spring came and summer passed, swallows flew south. Before we knew it, another year's royal hunt arrived. Fuzian's foundational skills were nearly mastered, so I brought him along to this hunt to broaden his horizons. After a day's journey by carriage, we reached the outskirts of the royal hunting grounds. Rarely seen, I spotted Li Wan and Pei Shuyan. Li Wan sat in a jeweled carriage, flanked by her new male favorite. Surrounded by numerous maidservants and attendants, resembling celestial beings descended to earth, Pei Shuyan occupied the rear carriage. After I delivered the secret letter to the third prince, the crown prince's faction began to weaken. Pei Shuyan must have devised another stratagem to gain Li Wan's favor, earning him this invitation to the royal hunt. Without my interference this lifetime, his destiny has finally taken its own course. This wine is too potent. Drink less. Fu Xian's words snapped me back to attention as he replaced the fruit wine before me with warm water. Fu Xian, why are you being so fussy now? I grumbled discontentedly. Last time, Master Du the physician already told you to drink less. If you don't listen, I'll report you to him. Fine. Fine. I got it. Stop nagging. I turned my head away, meeting Pei Shuyan's intense gaze. I couldn't tell how long he'd been watching me like that. My expression hardened, and I looked away. Fu Xian glanced at Pei Shuyan, who was still staring at me from a short distance away, and his lips curled into a cold smile. The Crown Prince proposed a competition at the archery range, with the prize being a night pearl from the East Sea. I recall the top scorer in my previous life was the new martial arts champion. This time, however, the participants were slightly different. Both Pei Shuyan and Fu Xian had signed up. Their appearances were so strikingly handsome that they stood out starkly against the crowd, creating their own distinct aura. The spectators' eyes were drawn to them involuntarily, one as cold and austere as frost, the other as defiant and radiant as the sun. My ears were filled with the curious whispers of young ladies who had never left their family homes. All about Fu Xian. Pei Shuyan possessed memories from 2 lifetimes, so defeating Fu Xian was a certainty. Yet I still agreed to let Fu Xian register. It was a good opportunity to temper his temperament. His performance, however, exceeded my expectations. After only a year of training, he showed signs of surpassing Pei Shuyan. The youth's frame was just coming into its own. Beneath his robes, his muscles weren't massive, but they weren't weak either. His dark hair framed a blue tunic, a quiver of arrows slung at his waist. His ink-black brows swept into his temples, his eyes sharp and fierce, radiating an air of unyielding determination. The image of that young general from my past life, dressed in splendid armor, riding a spirited steed, wild and defiant, seemed to reappear before my eyes. The competition raged fiercely on the field, the 3 contenders evenly matched. The Crown Prince remarked with interest, "The young are truly formidable." He then raised the stakes, ushering the trio into the final trial. The method, standing face to face with apples balanced atop their heads. The first to shoot an apple off could advance. They would compete in turns, with no regard for life or death. Fearful contestants could concede defeat. Li Wan wore a smile, her gaze fixed intently on Fu Xian, the expression of a venomous snake eyeing its prey. The martial arts champion's face darkened. The first to falter, such a life-or-death contest belongs on the battlefield. I withdraw. Fu Xian sneered with disdain. Before he could speak, I stood and called out, "Ian." All eyes turned to me. Pain etched my face as I whispered softly, "I'm not feeling well." "Ian." Fu Xian's face flashed with alarm. He tossed aside his quiver, ignoring Pei Shuyan waiting behind him and the spectators in the stands. With one hand lightly braced on the railing, he leapt forward, grasping my hand as he stared intently at my complexion. "What's wrong? You were fine just now. I'll take you to the imperial physician." With that, he addressed the Crown Prince, "My apologies, Your Highness. I withdraw." Pei Shuyan watched my retreating figure in silence. After a long moment, he slowly lowered the bow he held. Back in the tent, the imperial physician took my pulse. After examining me for a while, he declared I was fine and just needed rest. Once the physician left, Fu Xian lowered his eyes and asked softly, "Didn't you want me to compete against him?" I was absolutely certain I could win, and that night pearl was rather lovely. I wanted to win it to make you a set of jewelry. Fu Xian spoke with a hint of hurt. Seeing his expression, the words I'd been about to say caught in my throat. I wasn't stupid. Combined with Leonie's words, I'd become more perceptive. Over the past year, I'd certainly sensed his subtle affection. But the events of my previous life had left me with no capacity for love. Besides, could Fu Xian even distinguish whether his feelings for me were the reverent admiration of a mentor toward a talented disciple, or actual love? He never made it obvious. So I never found the courage to speak up. But now, I couldn't let it go any longer. I had to set him straight. My face turned cold as I spoke indifferently. Thank you for your kindness. But it's unnecessary. I may lack many things, but money isn't one of them. If I want something, I'll buy it myself. But that's not the same. This is my heartfelt gift. I leaned back against the bed as Fu Xian crouched down beside me. His handsome face tilted upward, like a devout believer. His eyes held unmasked hurt. If you're trying to talk about some bullshit love, you've got the wrong person. My time is limited. My greatest daily struggle is deciding where to invest my time for the greatest return. Yen. This is the first and last time I'll say it, don't waste your energy on me. There are far more important things to care about than love. Even if I were to like someone, it should be a man who stands tall and proud, not someone clinging to me. If that were the case, how would you be any different from Li Wan's playthings? My words were final, leaving him no hope. Fu Xian remained silent for a long while. After a considerable pause, he slowly lifted his bloodshot eyes and uttered each word deliberately. I understand. Mistress. No sooner had Fu Xian departed than an uninvited guest arrived. I stared coldly at Pei Shuyan, who held today's prize. What is it? Mr. Pei? Pei Shuyan froze for 2 seconds. He, who never showed emotion, now seemed flustered. He produced today's prize, a night pearl, and said, I recall you cherished night pearls in your past life. Past life? Ha! Pearls like this? Father gifted me a whole chest of them on my 5th birthday. I cherished it last lifetime because it was the one you gave me. Besides, you didn't win this night pearl honorably. If we compete to the end, you won't defeat Fu Xian. Pei Shuyan's voice was hoarse and heavy, thick enough to crush me. So what if I can't win? As long as you still love me, that's enough. Pei Shuyan seized my wrist, pulling me closer. I know you bought him just to spite me. I'd do anything to beg your forgiveness. Please don't resort to this. What makes you so sure I still love you? I yanked his wrist away, nausea surging from my chest. The tutor you hired for him, the courtyard he lives in, they're all from my past life. I shouted back. So what if my motives weren't pure when I bought him? Let me tell you the truth. Do you know why I bought Fu Xian this lifetime? Because he's your nemesis. I'll prop him up to high positions just as I did for you last time. As long as you're miserable, I'll be happy. Most importantly, he's not as filthy as you. I threw myself backward, using self-harm to finally break free from Pei Shuyan's grip. Irritation boiled within me. I refused to share this space with him, couldn't bear another glance at his face. I pulled back the tent flap to leave, but I collided with Fu Xian, clutching a wine flask, reeking of alcohol. My heart skipped a beat. How long had he been here? How much had he overheard? I froze in place. He regarded me calmly, his eyes holding the same cold detachment as when we first met. I opened my mouth, but no words came, though I felt a twinge of guilt. What difference did it make if he'd heard? Regardless of my motives, the fact remained that I'd dragged him out. With that thought, I lowered my brows coldly and stepped away from this trouble spot. Li Wan sent an invitation, inviting Fu Xian and me to a small gathering at the princess's residence. I fiddled with the invitation, troubled. First, since returning from the last hunt, Fu Xian hadn't spoken to me. Seeing me was like seeing a stranger. Even when business arose, he handled it strictly by the book. He was friendlier to Jinbao's dog than to me. Second, after that hunt, I sensed Li Wan's renewed interest in Fuzian. She'd stop at nothing to get what she wanted. With wars raging everywhere and the court desperate for funds, my Lin family's vast and intricate business network could send shockwaves through the nation's economy if targeted. At this critical juncture, she likely wouldn't push me too hard, but Fuzian might face unexpected trouble. After careful deliberation, I had Jinbao invite General Li to a private gathering at the tavern. The time had come, it was time to send Fuzian down the path he must take. After greeting General Li, I summoned Fuzian to my study. His expression was impassive, his already cold, sharp eyes seeming even more unapproachable. His demeanor infuriated me instantly. I coldly informed him he would enlist at month's end. Fuzian's lips curled in a bitter sneer, and after enlisting? Like that bullshit last lifetime. Helping you deal with Pei Shuyan? My temples throbbed violently as rage surged 3 meters high within me. Fuzian, spare me the sarcasm. Even if you refuse, I won't utter a word against you. So what if Pei Shuyan belongs to the Crown Prince's faction? Every power in the court is starved for funds now. Dismissing Pei Shuyan would be child's play for me. What I fear is you falling back into Li Wan's clutches. Do you understand? I glanced at his silent figure, feeling only deeper disillusionment. A wolf cub remains a wolf cub, no matter how long you raise it. It never truly changes. Leave. I'll give you some travel money. Do whatever you want. Take whichever path you choose. The Lin family has nothing to do with you anymore. Get out. I don't want to see you. I flipped through the ledger in my hand, no longer looking at him. Fuzian stood there, motionless for a long time. Much later, I heard him say in a hoarse voice, "I'll go. Consider it repaying your kindness." With that, he left the study. I rubbed my forehead in irritation. I didn't see him off on the day he departed. When Jinbao returned, he told me Fuzian had been distracted, constantly glancing toward the doorway. I thought that sounded exaggerated. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. With my support in this life, Fuzian matured faster than he had in his previous existence. Pei Xiuyan, however, didn't enjoy the same smooth path as before. He struggled under the Crown Prince's command, and Li Wan's interest in him seemed to have waned. While sabotaging Pei Shuyan, I also made contact with the third prince. Simply stating, this humble maiden wishes to contribute to founding the dynasty and lend you my support. Besides, in my previous life, the victor in the succession struggle was also aligned with the third prince's faction. So I had no qualms. After interacting with the third prince, I wouldn't dare say he'd be a wise ruler, but he would certainly be a benevolent one. Recently, I took Liani to Jiangnan to source specialty snacks for the restaurant. Midway, we encountered a band of robbers. About 10 of them, their faces twisted with brutality, blocked the narrow path like demons. Lin family guards and Jinbao formed a protective circle around Liani and me. The leader, a fat man with a pockmarked face, stared at Liani and me with his small, lecherous eyes. Liani stepped forward, shielding me. The fat man grinned. "Hey, lady, tell your little buddies to back off. Hand over anything valuable, and you might get off easier." The bandits all burst into laughter, their shrill, unpleasant voices sounding like bald pigeons. A henchman beside the fat man whistled. "Boss, can you spare one of these women for the brothers? We haven't had any fun in days." The fat man roared with laughter. Before he could speak, a sharp whistling sound cut through the air. An arrow, sharp as a blade, pierced the air with devastating force, striking the fat man squarely between the eyebrows. In the next instant, the fat man's smile froze on his face as he collapsed to the ground. Before anyone could react, The bandits panicked, throwing the scene into chaos. Jin Bao scanned the area and spotted 3 men riding tall, sturdy horses not far behind us. They looked dashing and handsome, like gods descended from heaven. The leader, holding a bow and arrow, had a high nose and thin lips. His eyelids were narrow, and the tips of his lowered lashes were thick, dark, and coldly stern. In the biting cold wind, his military robe fluttered slightly, his features so strikingly handsome they defied description. Jin Bao scrutinized him for a long moment, then widened his eyes and shouted, "Yan Gu." At the inn, we rested briefly before heading downstairs to order a simple meal. After ordering, Jin Bao went to fetch Fu Ziyan and his 2 men. 3 years had passed. Jin Bao tugged at Fu Ziyan, chattering away with questions. I kept my eyes fixed on Liani as we chatted. After so long apart, seeing Fu Ziyan again, my unease outweighed the joy of reunion. Unexpectedly, Fu Ziyan sat down directly beside me. My heart skipped a beat. While Liani spoke to me, I nodded politely, my thoughts entirely drawn to Fu Ziyan. He had grown taller, tanned, his features sharper. He was no longer the spoiled teenager of before. Every movement radiated the imposing presence of someone in a position of power. My thoughts were in turmoil, but outwardly, I maintained the basic decorum of a merchant, eating my meal without flinching. "So you're Miss Lin. Pleased to meet you at last." One of Fu Ziyan's subordinates, Zhang Baogua, grinned widely as he greeted me. My hand froze mid-motion as I picked up my chopsticks. Fu Ziyan's expression remained unchanged as he spoke calmly. "Eat your meal." Jin Bao, curious, chimed in. "How did you 2 end up here? What a coincidence." Zhang Baogua chuckled. "We heard from the authorities that Miss Lin was coming. Brother Fu wanted to see her, so we insisted on tagging along." Fu Ziyan shot Zhang Baogua a cool glance. Zhang forced a smile, his neck twitching slightly. He buried his head in his rice and fell silent. Liani smiled faintly, exchanging a glance with Jin Bao. After 2 bites, I set down my chopsticks and went upstairs. Moonlight streamed like a ribbon. It was now the dead of night. Unable to sleep, I threw on some clothes, intending to stroll to the small pavilion in the inn's backyard. There I encountered Fu Ziyan, gazing at the moon from within the pavilion. I stood frozen in place. Hearing the sound, Fu Ziyan turned his head to look. Our gazes met midair, and this time, I didn't look away. I nearly died in Sanya Bay. The terrain there is rugged. We fell into an ambush, and it was Baogua who risked his life to rescue me. We sat down on the stone bench. I watched Fu Ziyan's rugged profile as he recounted his 3 years in the northern frontier with a remarkably calm expression. "In these 3 years, I wrote you over 200 letters, but never sent a single one." Fu Ziyan turned to look at me, his eyes like a pool of moonlit spring water. "When I first arrived in the north, I stubbornly held on to resentment toward you. But when I nearly died at Sanya Bay, my only thought was, if only I could see you one more time. All my grievances toward you vanished in that moment. I just wanted to live, to see you again." My heart ached bitterly. I lowered my head, not wanting him to see my expression. It was that very thought that saved my life time and again. Until this year, when we were reassigned back. The 3rd Prince's faction nominated me as General of the Northern Frontier. Once Li Wan's plaything, I'm now a thorn in the side of the Crown Prince's faction. Factions clash. Soldiers endure. They praise me as a young general, brave and strategic, renowned throughout the capital. They say women, fame, fortune, all are now within my grasp. Fu Ziyan paused, letting out a faint, self-mocking chuckle. But I want none of it. I only wish to ask you one thing. Am I now a man who stands tall and proud? Wan Wan. I've loved you for a very, Very long time. Fu Xian's voice was faint and ethereal. As if afraid of startling me. Moonlight bathed his profile. Deep and gentle. After returning to Chang'an, Fu Xian was granted his own general's residence. Pei Shuyan lacked the capability to act against the third princess faction beyond restraining Fu Xian. Without the connections and resources I had helped him build in my previous life, he could never replicate that era's glory in this one. But then I was kidnapped. Right on the streets of Chang'an. Despite being surrounded by guards, I was snatched away. Liani even got her arm injured protecting me. I expected Li Wan or the Crown Prince's faction to be behind it. But it turned out to be Pei Shuyan. The secret guards Fu Xian had assigned to me were mostly dead. I was bound and seated on a bed. Blindfolded. Pei Shuyan's long fingers treated the silk cloth covering my eyes like a precious treasure as he removed it. My eyes remained closed as I slowly adjusted to the blinding sunlight. Pei Shuyan watched me with a soft smile, his eyes holding an unfamiliar intensity and fervor. I stared at him coldly. What? Did you capture me to avenge your princess? Recently, envoys from the western regions visited our court. Their purpose was twofold: to establish diplomatic relations between our nations and to discuss the marriage alliance between Princess Li Wan and a prince of the western regions. Li Wan's notoriety was widely known, and the western envoys had naturally heard of it. Yet this alliance concerned the relations between two nations. It wasn't something that could simply be withdrawn. So I gave things a little push. When the old emperor, the crown prince, and others were touring the imperial gardens with the western region envoys, they happened upon Li Wan, who was brutally tormenting the unloved 17th prince. Now the western region had a legitimate reason to call off the engagement, and I had avenged the poison she slipped me all those years ago. The old emperor suffered a severe loss of face. The people voiced their discontent, even beating the drum of public complaints. Memorials from ministers flew relentlessly before the old emperor, and the loyal old chancellor died while pleading his case. Li Wan was confined indefinitely within the princess's residence. Now, I have sufficient pieces on the palace chessboard. There are countless ways to humiliate Li Wan, yet I ultimately did not lose my conscience to resort to drugging others like she did. Upon hearing my words, Pei Shuyan gave a bitter smile. Wan. Does this place look familiar? I scanned the surroundings, the familiar bed, the familiar screen, the familiar furnishings. This room was identical to the one we shared in my past life. It took me 3 years to recreate our former Lin residence. From now on, this will be our home. The stubbornness in Pei Shuyan's eyes made my hair stand on end. You've been planning this for 3 years? Pei Shuyan. We haven't had a home together for ages. Snap out of it. Pei Shuyan lowered his icy brows, curling his lips in a smile that resembled both a Buddha's benevolent gaze and a demon's seductive lure. Then whose home do you have? Fu Xian's? I know you're waiting for him to rescue you. The fluorescent powder on your clothes and those hidden guards, I've already taken care of them. No one will find their way here. Are you out of your mind? Pei Shuyan reached out to touch my face. I jerked away. His eyes flickered, his complexion turning ashen. He restrained himself, smoothing the creases in my clothes. Whether you call me heartless or shameless doesn't matter, as long as it keeps you by my side. This method is a masterstroke: destroy the old to build the new. Do you know, Wan? This is actually our third lifetime. An immortal once appeared in a dream, saying this is our final one. Pei Shuyan seemed lost in his own world. He looked at me, yet his gaze seemed to pierce through me. Speaking to himself, the first life was the one where I took my own life. In that life, every shred of Pei Shuyan's integrity and backbone was shattered by Li Wan. The more you showed me kindness, the more it stabbed at my memories. The more happiness I felt, the deeper the shame and humiliation of the past gnawed at me. Even when you bought me out of the mansion, I remained Pei Shuyan, the plaything. I had to love her, only then could I be the pure Pei Shuyan who once walked this world. I'm sorry, Wan Wan. I couldn't say goodbye properly that time. In the second life, I was reborn before our engagement. This time, I resolved not to burden you. I refused the betrothal. You said nothing, accepting my withdrawal calmly. In that moment, I felt a strange sense of loss. After that, Li Wan set her sights on me again. You can guess the outcome, just a plaything unfit for the stage. You became engaged to Feng Yang. I attended the engagement banquet with Li Wan. You remained as radiant and beautiful as ever. Without me, your life flowed more smoothly. Seeing Feng Yang by your side, I felt an overwhelming urge to kill him, regardless of the cost. You were always meant to be mine. In the second life, the immortal helped me see my own heart clearly. So I took my own life again, ushering in our third life. Pei Shuyan smiled. Yet I thought I saw a single tear fall. This life of ours should be filled with happiness and joy. It ought to be so. Perhaps the meaning of this life is that the immortal wanted me to see you clearly, to avoid repeating past mistakes. I remained utterly unmoved by his story, speaking coldly. Thankfully, this is the final life. What sin did I commit to endure 3 lifetimes with you? Release me. This is your last chance. Pei Xiuyan. Pei Xiuyan slowly lifted his crimson, icy eyes. Only if I die, I'll eliminate Fu Zian. Then you'll be content to stay here with me. Won't you? A stance of no retreat. No surrender. I smiled faintly. Kill him at midnight. And before dawn breaks, I'll join him down below. You know I always keep my word. I hadn't eaten in 3 days. Pei Xiuyan had no choice but to threaten me with the lives of my entire household. After knowing him so long, I finally realized even the peerless Pei Chancellor could sink to such depths of shamelessness. I chuckled. Once I'm dead, what do I care about afterlife affairs? I've wronged the Lin family in this life. I'll atone to them in the underworld. I continued my fast. My gamble was whether he'd show mercy. On the 5th day, Pei Shuyan seized the divine physician Du. This move allowed Fu Zian to trace the trail back to Pei Shuyan's residence. When he found me, Fu Zian's eyes were as cold as frost. He lifted me into the carriage, and I knew that was his way of showing anger. I tugged at his sleeve. He ruffled my hair and said, "Don't worry. I know my limits." Then he turned sharply and strode toward Pei Shuyan. From outside the carriage came muffled thuds of fists meeting flesh. I took out the peach blossom pastries Fu Zian had prepared for me. Before the carriage reached the estate, Zhao Kai was already waiting by the side gate. Hearing the commotion outside, he hurried out to greet them. Jin Bao grabbed Zhao Cai's arm and scolded, "Calm down. They're not back yet." Zhao Kai smacked Jin Bao on the head with a fist. "Calm my ass. He hasn't even returned yet." I pulled him out of the quagmire, and Pei Shuyan did not disappoint my trust. Despite his youth, he ranked among the top 3 candidates, becoming the youngest top scholar in nearly a century. I was 29. Without Pei Shuyan's support, the prince's faction in this lifetime disintegrated rapidly. The third prince advanced like a whirlwind. On the day the old emperor died suddenly from his elixir, the third prince led his troops to surround the crown prince and his followers, tearing up the imperial edict designating the crown prince as heir right before their eyes. After the third prince succeeded, the crown prince and empress were imprisoned in the imperial mausoleum. It was only then that Fu Zian told me about how the empress had orchestrated the death of the third prince's mother. Li Wan hadn't left the mansion since the incident with the Western region envoy, so she remained unaware of the succession struggle. The third prince decreed that the male attendants of the princess's mansion could decide for themselves whether to stay or leave. After recovering my health, I cast Pei Shuyan into the princess's residence. Li Wan had long lost the dignity befitting a former eldest princess. Her body bore the scars of vengeance inflicted by the male attendants in her inner quarters. Her hair hung loose, her face pale and gloomy. Yet upon seeing me, She still tried to assert her princess's authority. She lashed out violently, sending all the food on the table crashing to the floor, startling the matron beside her. She bellowed at me, "I am Princess Li Wan. Lin Wan. I will kill you both." I glanced at Pei Shuyan, who was being held by the secret guards, and said, "Perhaps in this life you speak of, this third life, we have each found our own fulfillment. Li Wan will forever belong to you." Oh, and I haven't settled the score for Liani's injuries yet. Fu Xian's guard entered. I snatched the long sword from the guard's side. The next moment, blood gushed from Pei Shuyan's arm. Pei Shuyan blinked, his lashes smeared with blood. The blood caked over his arm, warm at first, then swiftly turning cold as it flowed to the floor, solidifying into a dark crimson stain. He struggled, calling out for Wan Wan, violently trying to break free from the guard's grip. Trembling, he reached for the hem of my skirt. The crimson cracks spread like an invisible net. My expression remained cold as I took a step back, turning away from the two figures behind me. By the time we exited the princess's residence, the dawn light of the hour of Mao was just beginning to spread. A few stars still flickered faintly in the sky, their light flickering on and off. The air was bitterly cold, and the sharp evening wind stung the cheeks, freezing even the breath that escaped one's lips. The Lin family carriage waited outside the princess's residence, Fu Xian standing tall beside it. Liani and Zhao Kai Jinbao prepared a feast of Hunan dishes you love at the restaurant. I took his warm, outstretched hand, smiled, and said, "Let's go home." The end.